Hello everyone, welcome to my first video on film photography. Today we're going to dive into a step-by-step on how to develop your own film at home. This is a process that I have been doing for about 4 years and it has worked for me so far. Now don't worry if you're a beginner, have never tried this before. I'll walk you through the entire process and by the end, I hope that you will have a clear idea of how to develop your own film. A heads up, I will not be using the traditional method of developing film, which requires a darkroom or a darkroom bag. I will be using the lab box, which honestly simplifies the whole process of film development. To get started, I want to walk you through everything I'm going to use throughout the video. I will leave links down in the description in case you want to buy similar tools to the ones I'll be using. The 3 amber glass bottles. This is where I will store the chemicals once I mix them. For mixing, I have these graduated cylinders, which I highly recommend. This is a 300cc, and I also have a 100cc's or milliliters, same thing. An important tool for my kit is this labeling machine, which I use for labeling all my bottles. I include the label for the name of the chemical, the date when I mixed it, and the ratios at the bottom. For example, for ilful stop, I mixed it on October 8th, 2022. That was the last time I mixed it, so I'm mixing new today. And then the ratio at the bottom, 1:19, which is 13 milliliters of concentrate and 238 milliliters of water. An important tool in your development toolkit is a film retriever. So when you take your film out of the camera, you will have it like this, where you cannot see the film itself. So you need a tool like this to insert it and take the film out. Once you take it out, you'll see that it's not as smooth as this. So I recommend getting some scissors for cutting the film into this shape, which will allow us to insert it better on the lab box. Well, I also recommend getting distilled water or purified water. It's similar. Sometimes you'll find distilled water and sometimes you won't. So distilled water or purified water. This is what we're going to use for mixing all the chemicals. Lastly, I use the lab box for all the development process. I recommend getting some paper towels for the countertop, as well as the towel for your hands once you wash them. And that's it. This is everything I use for black and white film. I'll show you how to use everything later in this video. Before I start the development process, I want to explain something that confused me at first. We mostly buy chemicals in concentrates, which means we have to dilute them before we use them. You'll often see these dilutions described as ratios, like 1:9, 1:14, or 1:4. The first number represents the parts of concentrated chemical, and the second number represents the parts of water. A quick way to calculate this is to use an online ratio calculator, or if you're like me and like to do it by hand, I'll jump into the iPad and explain. For example, in a ratio of 1:9 in 250 milliliters, we add both numbers in the ratio to find the total parts. In this case, 1 plus 9 equals 10. Then simply divide the total quantity, 250, by the total parts, 10, giving us 25. Then to find the milliliters of concentrate, multiply 1 times 25 to get 25 milliliters of concentrate. And do the same thing for water. 9 times 25 equals 225 milliliters of water. Meaning, for a mix of 250 milliliters for a dilution of 1:9 ratio, it would require 25 milliliters of concentrate and 225 milliliters of water. Now, don't worry if you don't get it at first. It's quite easy once you start doing it by yourself. Now, everyone has their own preferences when it comes to dilutions and timings, but for this video, I'll keep it simple and share my methods. For black and white film, I use ilful salt 3, ilful stop, ilful rapid fixer, and ilful wash aid. For ilful salt 3, I use a 1:9 ratio, ilful stop 1:19, ilful rapid fixer 1:4, and ilful wash aid 1:4. Now, as per instructions, I mix ilful salt 3 fresh every time and do not store it. As for other chemicals, I mix them and store them in the amber bottles for later use. In case you're wondering about color film, I use C41 powder chemicals, which come in kits with their own instructions on ratios and temperatures. But let's focus on black and white for now, as it's simpler and can be done at room temperature, which is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 degrees Celsius. With our bases covered, let's jump right in. So the first thing I'm going to do is label all the bottles. I recommend you do the same, either with the labeler machine or with tape and writing with the pen on top of it. So either works, but make sure you label the dates. That way
it has happened to me in the past where I go a few months without developing any film, and then I go back and I'm not exactly sure when it was that I mixed the chemicals. Maybe they expired, maybe I need to mix new ones. Alright, so we have it here, July 25th, 2023. I just printed all three and we're good to go. Let me show you. Remember, you need a label for every bottle. I recommend you check online what the expiration date for the chemicals that you're using is once you mix them, and write them down, because later on you're going to always have to look it up. So just get a notebook for all your film development stuff and write the expiration dates of the chemicals that you're using. It's as simple as that. So you can see here, I have the expiration date, the name, and the mixing ratios. So next up, we're going to go with the mixing ratios and start to mix all the chemicals. Alright, so I like to start by washing my cylinders. I'm going to use the 300 milliliter cylinder because I fill my lab box up to 250. Now, some people prefer to fill the lab box up to 500 milliliters and do different types of agitations. And I prefer to fill my lab box up to 250 milliliters and do continuous agitation, tapping the table every now and then, and I'll show you later in the video. But yeah, I'm going to mix the chemicals to make 250 milliliters. The first chemical I'm going to mix is Ilfostop. So for Ilfostop, you look at your bottle and you say 1 to 19, and then I have down here written, let me see, so 13 and 238 milliliters. So that's what I'm going to mix. I get the 13 from here. So an easier way, instead of measuring 13 and 238 specifically, what you can do is look at your cylinder and fill it up to 238, and after that just fill up with the chemical concentrate all the way up to 250 milliliters. So I have my cylinder with 238, and then I'll mix the 13 of Ilfostop. Some people make sure to wear gloves. I don't have gloves with me right now, but if not, I would wear it. So that's also a recommendation. And that's 250. This is my mixing straw, and then I just give it a good mix. Make sure to wash everything after you use it, because I'm going to be reusing the same tools for all the chemicals. And then just use your funnel to pour the chemical. And that's it, your chemical is ready. Make sure you wash your tools, and that's it. I'll speed it up for the other. Next up, we're going to use the film retriever to take the film out of the cassette. It has two parts that move. So we insert the first part into this opening of the cassette. So we insert the first part, then we're going to rotate this until we hear a click. Once we hear that click, we're going to go ahead and insert the second part. Once we do that, we can go ahead and take both of them out, and our film should come out. If it doesn't come out the first time, just try it again. It usually takes me 2 to 3 times to take it out. Okay, so we put both of them in at first. Then we insert the first part. So the first part is inserted here. And then we're going to rotate the top part. And I heard a click. Insert the second part. And there you go. It's that easy. Once you take it out, just keep taking it out a little bit. Somewhere there. Take your scissors, and we're going to try to make corners here, rounded corners. So there is a corner, it's better to see on this side. So there's corners here, it's a rounded corner. We're going to try to make it straight line and also round the corner of here. And it should look something like this. So before we start the development process, I recommend you set up your timers For Android, I use an app called Massive Dev, and I set up my custom times. And on iPhone, I use the develop exclamation mark, I believe. I'll put both links down at the bottom of the description. That way you can just click on it and go straight to the app. But I recommend you set your custom times. If you want to follow my video, go ahead and do that. If not, go online and search what's best for timings of each of the chemicals that you use. I have 2 timers set up, one for color and one for black and white. For Ilfosol 3, I'm doing 4 minutes and 30 seconds. For Ilfos Stop, I'm doing 10 seconds. And for the Rapid Fixer, I'm doing 5 minutes. After that, I'm going to go ahead and apply the wash aid for 1 minute approximately, and then just leave it rinsing with water, regular water, for 10 minutes. The lab box is a modular system, so almost everything can come apart. We have the actual box here with where the film goes, and there is a cutter here for when you insert. You need to cut the film at the end of the roll. This is where the film will slide easily into the actual spool. We're going to spool our film here, and I'll show a close-up of how that will look like. For this video, I'm going to develop HP5 400. I have other 4 rolls that I'm going to develop later, but these are all color film. You need to look for your left and right side of the spool. If you put it incorrectly into the lab box, it will not rotate, so you'll immediately notice it. If it doesn't rotate, simply flip this and you'll be good to go. First part, you have your box. I find my left and my right. So this is my right. I put it like this. After that, I'm going to put in this. And lastly, I'll put in the guide here. You have these metal bars, so you want to put it under that. And then just take a little bit of your film out like this. Don't worry, this part doesn't have any photographs because it's the same part that you use to wind your film into the camera. Simply clip the middle part of your film to the clip here. I like to make sure that when I clip it, the corners are not sticking out because it will be harder for the actual film to get into the grooves of the spool. Always give it a toggle to see that it's secure, and then introduce it through the middle part here and start rotating your spool. You'll see that it will start making an uncomfortable sound for some people. That's normal. It's always been like that. Just put your top on. Don't open the box again because you don't want to expose it to light, but you're good to go now. You want to wind it steady because you don't want to have the film miss a groove just because you did it too fast. So I like to do it steady and slow. Once you feel a little bit of resistance, just pull it a little bit back and that's good. Now the lab box has this like a button here, or this is your cutter. This is how you're going to cut the film from the actual cartridge. So just go ahead and cut that. That's it. And you can see that you can spin it freely now. Give it a couple spins so everything's nice and wound up on the inside. The first step will be to mix the Ilfosol 3. 25 solution and 225 water. Find 225 and 25 milliliters of Ilfosol until we reach the 250. Give it a good mix. At this point, you can start your development. So we're going to use the Ilfosol 3 that we already mixed, pour it into here, start continuous agitation, and start the timer at the same time. We're going to do continuous agitation for this process because I'm doing 250 milliliters of chemical, and so it will only go halfway of the lab box instead of the 500 capacity that it has. So we go ahead and pour. I'm going to start my timer. That's it. I'm gonna put this in the sink. Be organized, guys. And let me show you what I'm doing. I'm just doing continuous agitation, and I'll do that for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So once you hear that, you can just pour it down the sink and you're good. Go ahead with the info stop. This will be for 10 seconds only. This is to stop the film from developing. Putting my funnel into the container and pour it there. We're going to do the same thing for the rest of the chemicals, and I'll see you at the end. I'm going to start the timer for 5 minutes. So I'll finish all the chemicals and we're ready to start with the final rinse. So that will be for 10 minutes. Using the lap box, just put the regular water in like this under the faucet. So start your timer for 10 minutes, and at the 5-minute mark, we're going to go into the shower and we're going to turn all the way up to the hot water. That way steam starts to build up, all the particles start to come down when I turn it off, and that way none of the particles are sticking to our film. I'll see you at the 5-minute mark. Open the lap box, take the top off, remove all the water, and just let new water run in for the rest of the 5 minutes. Then I start the shower for 5 minutes and just let it steam up. After you empty everything out, you can rotate this until it comes out. It's that easy, and then that's it. You have your developed film. Now we're going to take it to the bathroom, and once in the bathroom, we're going to take everything out of the spool, hang it, and let it dry for 3 to 4 hours. 2 more things I forgot to recommend. One is this hanger thing that I'll show you now, and another one is this squeegee thing to remove all the residue water from the film. The hanger is this little thing that attaches here, and you can see the film hanging from it. Just leave it here for 3 to 4 hours. Try not to come to the bathroom too much, just to not bring particles with you.
And there you have it. Your film is developed and ready for scanning or printing. I hope this guide was helpful and encourage you to try to develop your own film at home. This is a very rewarding process, and at least for me, it connects me a bit more with the photographs that I'm taking and the entire process of seeing them come to life. In the next video, I will show you my process of scanning film. If you're interested, I'll see you there. If not, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, leave me a comment down below and share your experience. Anyways, see you on the next one.